After the onset of World War II, millions of healthy Americans, both men and women, enlisted to fight to end fascism in Europe, crush the Nazis, and steal as much artifacts from German castles as possible.
We earned it.
I had to come all the way to Germany. I'm allowed to steal this painting.
I went all the way to fight the Nazis in Germany, and all I got was this Rembrandt.
On our home front, the good Americans had to find a way to help while staying put. Millions of women took factory jobs. Many of people of color who were otherwise banned from employment due to homegrown racism got jobs in the war machine. Opportunities were presenting themselves, and the world was in the act of changing. Many movie stars enlisted to fight in Europe, and those who were either too cowardly or too sick to fight had to find unique ways to help out. 3 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor and America entering World War II, a New York volunteer group called the American Theater Wing decided they wanted to help the war effort from home, utilizing what they had to offer. This was in New York. Taking a space just off Broadway in the basement of the 44th Street Theater, the theater owner donated the space to use, and several stage designers, local merchants, caterers, and restaurant owners all donated what they could, including volunteers to work for them for this endeavor. What they created was the Stage Door Canteen, where servicemen were invited to this nightclub soup kitchen mix, where around 1,700 volunteers from New York theater, the theater industry, would party and dance with servicemen as well as serve them.
Servicemen and also
servicing men.
Well, we'll save that for my place.
It was their way of thanking the brave men who were out fighting the Nazis. This would be the model for the Hollywood Canteen, and it was thanks to two famous movie stars, John Garfield, who some know from, I know him from Postman Always Rings Twice, and Betty Davis, who I don't even need to introduce, like Betty Davis. John Garfield grew up in the slums of the Lower East Side, and he was the son of Jewish immigrants. He found his voice on the New York stage as an early example of like what Brando and James Dean, like a working class, brooding, but like sensitive actor. Like he was that type, but not like as refined as the other two were.
You call Marlon Brando sensitive?
I think he was anguished. So like the sensitivity that comes out as anger, like, how dare you say that about me? Like that kind of.
Is certainly sensitive to oranges.
His body was sensitive to calories. Very funny, very funny.
Take note, ChatGPT.
So John Garfield came out west to make money in Hollywood, which he didn't respect. He didn't like making movies. He was like a theater guy.
He also didn't like Mondays. Right, so from what I hear,
I want you to know that every time I wrote his name, I put John Garfield because I didn't want what just happened to happen.
Someone's being a real Odie.
You're not lasagna. I don't like you. You're not lasagna. So he came out west to be in movies, which he had absolutely no respect for movies. But that changed when he was nominated for an Oscar in 1938 for the movie Four Daughters. So that meant...
So now he loves movies.
And he's here to stay. John Garfield, son of Jewish immigrants, was itching to fight the Nazis in World War II. And when America entered the war, he was set to enlist and snuff out Hitler himself. Personally snuff out Hitler. He had a knife that had Hitler's name. And it confused a lot of people, but...
To Garfield from Hitler. What does this knife mean? No, it's from Garfield to Hitler. That's what he was mailing Odie to. Odie had a cyanide pill in his mouth.
When you pet his fur, it transfers over to your hand, and then you rub it in your eyes and you die. I was trying to make a joke about the Hitler killing his two dogs, and one of them being Odie, but my brain's lagging right now and making that connection.
Someone will make it in their own head. It'll make the listener feel smart.
Someone much funnier than us, which is most people. The problem with him wanting to join World War II, John Garfield, was that he was 4F. He was unfit for military service because as a child, he got hit with rheumatic fever and was left as an adult with a weak heart. That didn't deter his ambition to do something to help the U.S. win the war, though. The message that the government was giving Hollywood at the time was do what you can with the voice that you have, mostly meaning like help us raise money for war bonds, help sell American propaganda on the big screen, make sure that every movie is just like, we got to get together, boys, like the land of the free democracy. Like that was...
Unless you're Humphrey Bogart. Then you don't have to do that till the end of the movie.
And then like the Bob Hopes and Marilyn Monroe's would hit the USO tours for the troops and everything.
The two bombshells.
All this is what the government was telling Hollywood to do. This is your mission.
Yeah.
John Garfield also did USO tours, but he thought there was more he could be doing. And he became aware of the Stage Door Canteen in New York. That was his answer. Let's do that, but in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
In May of 1942, on the Warner Brothers lot, John Garfield had lunch with Betty Davis while she was filming a movie called Voyager. At this lunch in the green room of the studio commissary, John Garfield was eating lasagna.
May the Star Trek be with you. Yeah. We were both going for two different things.
Absolutely two different things. John Garfield would pitch the idea of a West Coast Stage Door Canteen. Betty Davis loved this idea and took the role of the new canteen's chairman, like right away. And once she was activated, she went full speed into manifesting the Hollywood Canteen. John Garfield and Bette Davis spent their weekends, days off, and quiet moments of the 18-hour workdays, including, this all included working out the details, pitching the idea to all the guilds, the unions, the craft organizations in Hollywood. It just like working out every last detail they could to make this happen as fast as possible.
So this, just to sum up, let's put all the Garfield and Star Trek aside. So this was a place where Hollywood people would help feed troops or
feed and entertain them.
Okay. So it was like a
nightclub,
like a local USO?
Like a localized USO thing is probably the best way to think about it. Because I was thinking this whole time, it's a nightclub, but also a soup kitchen. But the thing about it is like
But it's for veteran, or is it for?
It's for active servicemen. I think also
soon to be veterans.
Well, it's soon to be veterans because it's 1942. So we haven't nobody who jumped right into the war has done a full duty. I'll get to that later, but you can only get in if you were a serviceman. So like you and I could never go. Or like,
what if you've actively avoided conflict your whole life?
What if you shot yourself in the foot to make sure that you didn't go to Germany? What about me?
What if you've got like a to-go bag buried just across the Canadian border? Are you allowed in?
What if I'm dying from terminal cowardice? Can I go in? We'll get into the logistics, but basically that's what it was like a localized USO tour in a place that you can go 7 days a week.
Well, if you're in the Beatles, you get to go 8 days a week.
I mean, soldier in World War II, it really is 8 days a week. So they had to pitch this idea to all the unions, basically saying, give us everything you have. We can't pay you. This is for the war.
They've got masks pulled up over their noses. It's for the war. Hand it over.
Hand it over. But luckily, most of them were very enthusiastic about giving what they could to make this thing happen. In all, they enlisted 46 guilds and unions to sponsor the canteen. The pair rounded up several people and created a board of directors and elected officials and representatives. One of the biggest contributors to the Hollywood Canteen was Jules Stein, the founder and head of the Music Corporation of America, the MCA. Betty convinced him to become the organizer and financial advisor and ultimately business manager of the canteen. His participation was crucial to getting the canteen off the ground. Basically, Bette Davis said, like, if it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have happened. He had like all the right connections to make this thing go.
Let's not forget Garfield.
I mean, he doesn't like most things and he likes this. This is Garfield propaganda, by the way. Next on the agenda was finding a location. Their search was over when they found a beat-up former barn-style building just off of Sunset on Cahuenga, 1451 Cahuenga Boulevard. Not the old Sunset Amoeba, the building right behind it.
South of it?
South of it,
I guess there isn't anything, unless you're talking about the Cinerama Dome.
No, it's not the Cinerama Dome. It's not the Jack in the Box. It's not like Netflix headquarters. Like, if you're coming out the back door, it's
like kind of across where like that fire department museum
in that direction. Yeah. So behind Amoeba, there was parking underneath, and there was like a random parking lot behind it. I think it was around there. If the numbers didn't change in the last 80 years.
And why would they?
Why would numbers change on a Hollywood street?
I mean, sure, in my story, the numbers change, but why would they in your story change?
No, numbers stay put forever. That's why it's IVVIXII. Yeah, so if it's still the same, when I put the address into Google, it's the building immediately behind Amoeba. Bette Davis saw it and said, it's one step below an eyesore. The spot used to be several different...
Thanks, Betty.
Thanks
for all of these things, all these people donating stuff. This is what you have to say.
Usually this thing's rolling around the toilet. The spot used to be several different nightclubs, the last of which was called the Red Barn, which is kind of like, it was barn-ish. And they sort of kept that aesthetic. It had been empty for 5 years when John Garfield and Bette Davis found it. For the duration of the canteen's existence, the two paid $100 a month to lease it. A spot in the heart of Hollywood. This was in August, and they planned on opening in October of 1942, which gave John Garfield and the art director Alfred Ybarra 1 month to get the space in ship shape. 14 of the guild donated their time, labor, and materials to the creation of the Hollywood Canteen. This was truly a team effort. This was like, I keep thinking like, is it like propaganda videos in World War II where it's like everyone's doing their part to help, support the boys. Even the little boy, even little Timmy is driving his car.
Bette Davis.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And even the Hollywood stars are doing their own thing. And then this was just building the
Bette Davis is like scrubbing a toilet. This place looks a lot better on paper. Whatever Bette Davis sounds
exactly like that. If you watch Watcher in the Woods and when she's like 75, that's exactly what she sounds like. So they had volunteer plumbers, electricians, carpenters, painters, laborers, prop men, cartoonists, decorators. The Screen Cartoonist Guild painted several murals on the walls inside the canteen, fitting with the cowboy western theme of the place. On the lettering outside was like rope lettering, which I love
that's
rope
fun.
lettering. Yeah. The guilds donated lumber, barrels of nails, gallons of paint, miles of electrical wire, hundreds of yards of concrete. All food, drink, and cigarettes were donations from different Southern California food distributors, and they would need to donate a lot. It's estimated that each month it was open, the soldiers took in 4,000 loaves of bread, 400 pounds of butter, 1,500 pounds of coffee, 50,000 half pints of milk, 30,000 gallons of punch, 1,000 pounds of cheese, 2,500 pounds of assorted meats, 20,000 oranges, 100,000 pieces of cake, and more than 150,000 sandwiches and hot dogs.
And that was just Marlon Brando's.
All in one day. This is how we won the war, guys. With 300 gallons of ice cream. This is how we beat them. Yeah, this is just Orson Welles' locked refrigerator.
And then that big delivery got diverted and went straight to Xanadu.
Everyone leaves that part out of Citizen Kane. But aside from the Hollywood angle of the canteen, another interesting premise, like we were talking about earlier, of the Hollywood canteen was that it was not open to civilians and star seekers. This place would be used exclusively by enlisted servicemen of the U.S. and allied nations. A serviceman's uniform would be his ticket. No military officers would be permitted either. Like if you are like a higher rank than like a soldier, you couldn't get in.
Yeah, go to Musso and Frank's.
Exactly.
It seems like I could just steal some valor and put on a military uniform and walk right
with a
in.
limp, and a scar, and the things I've seen.
The things I've seen, the only thing that can heal my wounds, 4,000 pounds of butter.
And Charlie Chaplin's got to bring it to me.
Betty Davis needs to clean the toilet again before I use it.
There was something called an angel's table, which sat 4 people. Eventually, they added another table, so 8. And the idea was that for $25, a civilian could be a fly in the wall.
Oh, that's weird.
To enjoy the food and beverage, but they would not be allowed to dance or mingle with stars.
They
would just like sit in the periphery of the room and enjoy it from afar, but they were not allowed to participate in anything that servicemen could participate
What
in.
I thought you were saying was that you could pay, I guess, period, if you were a serviceman, and you could sit at a table with like Clark Gable and all, like there was like the hangout table for the celebrities, and they kept like one spot open and you could pay to sit there.
I guess I should have introed this better.
No celebrities went there.
No, there was full of celebrities at all times, and they were doing everything. They were sweeping up, they were bussing tables, they were serving sandwiches. They were entertaining, but they were also like, you would like do a show, then like, okay, I got to clean up all the sandwiches on this table.
So Betty Davis really was cleaning the toilets.
Yeah. I don't know if she was cleaning toilets. She ran the...
No.
You said that she cleaned toilets and she didn't even use to scrub bare hands. You said that.
Hands tied behind her back. She used her face, Greg.
And we were trying to tell her, like, you can put gloves on. And she's like, I breathe bleach.
It's okay. I'm into this.
Yeah. The stars would volunteer there.
That's so weird.
I wish that I brought photo evidence, because some of those photos, those are really famous photos of Hollywood during the war. It's pictures like Loretta Young hanging out with a bunch of enlisted men signing autographs, and behind her is Buster Keaton serving sandwiches. Like it's an anomaly.
I bet it was hilarious.
Very stone-faced the whole time. No expression.
With his thumb in the soup.
A big oven's about to fall on him, but he falls just in the right space.
Right between the burners.
Yeah, right between the burners, and he's safe. And he kind of just keeps going, business as usual. The Angels Table was sold out weeks in advance. The Angels Table would bring in $6,000 a month.
Wow. So wait, so even at the Angels Table, like Buster Keaton would come give you your soup with his thumb in it?
I don't know if they were, maybe.
What am I paying $25 for?
To be in the room and to watch it from afar.
Not enough.
Not enough.
How much extra do I have to pay to have Lon Chaney bring me a pastrami sandwich?
I have to go to Louis B. Mayer, and I have to pay him to offer me a contract so I could be on the catalog, so I can go to the...
I guess that maybe that's what they were preventing, of like, oh, people are going to pay this so that, they can... Here's your tip, Louis B. Mayer, and it's your pilot for your pilot for Gone with the Wind.
It works as a show. Once the servicemen were inside the space, everything would be free to them, including there was no door charge, food and beverages were free, like the show was free. Once they came in, everything to them was free. The Hollywood Canteen was also dry. No alcohol would be served, although there's stories about people sneaking alcohol in, obviously, because all of these people were alcoholics. Maybe not Ginger Rogers, but I think everybody else was an alcoholic. So I'm sure stuff was snuck in, but for the most part, it was pretty dry. No alcohol was served for sure to servicemen. Also, there's a lot of hostesses, which are more famous stars that you might recognize from movies. And then there were junior hostesses, and some of I'll get into this a little bit later, but they were like studio staff.
Like a receptionist?
Yeah, like receptionists and people who worked on the lot. You would be able, I mean, I say be able, I'm sure the studio would force you to volunteer your hours to the Hollywood canteen. Right. Either one of them, the hostesses and the junior hostesses, you were not permitted to see any servicemen after their shift. No exchanging numbers. If you had a dance and good rapport with Ginger Rogers, that was it. If you wanted to keep up with her, you had to go through her agent or studio.
Oh, these were rules for the servicemen.
It was rules for the volunteers, but it was reflecting.
Wait, so what? But why would the volunteers who are working there be dancing with Ginger Rogers?
No. Sorry.
Is Fred Astaire volunteer there?
Yeah, he volunteers there. Yeah. No, I'm saying if you're a soldier and you dance with Ginger Rogers and you ask for her number, she wasn't allowed to give it to you, even if she had a good time. It was like, you're a great soldier and you're very handsome. I'm not allowed to do that. Okay. Those are rules from me.
Yeah, here's my agent's
It's also
number.
Protecting me.
Yeah, no. I mean, Black Dahlia was around the corner.
Yeah.
Oh.
Daniel. No hanky-panky at all, as far as the rules go. And servicemen were only permitted to dance one dance per starlet. If they caught, let's say, another Ginger Rogers dancing two...
Let's just pick a different, a random celebrity.
Which one dances a lot? Ginger Rogers. She wasn't allowed to dance with the same soldier twice. You had to like shuffle through them to make sure that you weren't no hanky-panky.
Yeah.
These rules were pretty stiff, but that was put in place to make sure that everyone stayed safe. The Hollywood canteen ran from 7 p.m. to midnight to allow regular Joe Schmo volunteer to work their regular 9-to-5 job and then jump into volunteering alongside Rita Hayworth. Weekends
or Ginger Rogers.
Or Ginger, let's say, I don't know, pick one at random, Ginger Rogers. Weekends ran from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. So as for the stars, 3 days after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, in a day that would live in references, the Screen Actors Guild created the Hollywood Victory Committee for the purpose of providing a way actors could contribute to the war effort through raising money for war bonds and performing for the troops. What I'm saying is the committee was formed to like kind of filter and be the go-between between the stars and the government.
Okay.
So if you were Bob Hope and you wanted to perform for the troops and you didn't have a contact in the government, you went to the Hollywood Victory Committee, or they came to you either way, and that's how you'd be able to help the war effort.
Okay.
If you were, let's say, I don't know, Bob Hope.
Or Ginger Rogers.
Or, I don't know, random Ginger Rogers. Through the committee, SAG would grant permission to movie stars to make appearances and entertain without having to deal with the established union rules. Another thing to worry about compensation and such. It was through the
unions.
Oh, God, can you believe it? Trying to protect us and make sure I don't work 19 hours a day. Stupid Boris Karloff.
Only 8 hours a day and then 5 hours serving sandwiches to troops.
Only acting 8. I'm in makeup for 16 hours any given day.
It's not work if you're sitting down.
She's working. I'm sitting here. It's 119 degrees in this. It was through the Hollywood Victory Committee that Bette Davis would access some of Hollywood's biggest stars. Some did it as favors. Others were nudged, forced to do it by their studio. Now some stars would be able to dance and chat with servicemen. Some would sign autographs, but they were all expected to work. Like you all had to like, you couldn't just show up and like, I'm just going to sign autographs today. Like you could sign autographs in between doing your job
chopping
here.
Lettuce.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Serving coffee, making coffee. Ginger Rogers. Yeah.
Make sure you're wrapping Ginger Rogers.
So like I was saying, like you would
stir her every 3 minutes
or else she starts dancing compulsively. So yeah, you would see Buster Keaton bussing tables. Shirley Temple, who was 14 and
busting tables, he'd call it.
Bustering tables. Rita Hayworth, Shirley Temple were passing out sandwiches. You'd see like Charles Lawton.
That's child labor.
Yeah, it starts now at 14. It doesn't start when she's a little kid. It's child labor now that she has to wipe down a table.
What about Charles Lawton?
Oh, like he would just be like wiping down a table, getting it ready for someone to sit down next.
I've got a Charles Lawton story for you also.
I have a better Charles Lawton in here. Not better than yours, better than this. Anyways. Also, like the wives of a lot of celebrities were doing their part. Jules Stein's wife, Doris Stein, organized the hostesses and the schedules. Mary Ford, who was the wife of John Ford, also supervised the volunteers as well.
I was thinking this was somehow related to Mary Pickford, and I was like, is this her sister?
Pickford. So almost everything was set for grand opening, October 3rd, 1942. Performers were being lined up, with the MC of the night being comedian Eddie Cantor.
Uh-oh. Mr. Making Whoopee himself. Isn't that his big song, Making Whoopee?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I guess Eddie can. Door. They expected an overflow of servicemen, so they rented out a Shell gas station next to the space and used it as a dance pavilion. Just like
an annex of dancing?
Yeah, like a dance annex.
But how could Ginger Rogers be in two places at once?
That's what Fred's for. He's quite ugly.
Yeah, he is.
Anyways, a great dancer though.
Beautiful feet.
Beautiful feet, but don't look up. The movie Don't Look Up.
It's about Fred Rogers' feet.
Fred Rogers.
Fred Rogers. Did I say Fred Rogers?
You sure did say Mr. Rogers. You make me sick.
Nobody could dance like Fred Rogers.
That's why he changed shoes when he got home.
He just got back from the Hollywood Canteen. And boy, are my cardigans tired.
Boy, is my weird room full of puppets tired. A final aspect for opening night came from Jules Stein when he pitched an idea to bring in some more money. They would erect bleachers that lined opposite walls of the canteen and sell $50 tickets to movie stars, studio execs, community leaders, and higher-ranking military officers. They would be the audience for opening night, and the servicemen, volunteers, and movie stars would be the show. So,
so like a flip the script night.
Yeah, exactly. And is Louis B. Mayer watching a bunch of servicemen being like, can I pick their pockets? What can I do to get more money from these people? Is that a girl talking to a boy? That makes me sick to my stomach. Are they married? He's a big prude.
Wait, so this was like a talent show that they put on?
No. It was just, they would just sit and watch the canteen be the canteen.
Oh, wait, what?
Well, sorry. I'm sorry. There was a show, like every night there'd be like a variety show of some sorts that would always sort of change. They would sit on the bleachers, the studio execs, the high-ranking military officers, the people that couldn't get in otherwise because you're not a star. You just like run the studio. You could sit on the side for $50 and just watch the canteen be the canteen, meaning movie stars dancing with soldiers, signing autographs, but also you could watch the show.
But why would they care?
They really wouldn't. I imagine the high-ranking officers would be like,
maybe the high-ranking, but like, why would Louis B. Mayer be like, I could just make them all recreate this for me in my office tomorrow. Like, what is he so desperate to get in there for?
I have no idea, other than showing face.
I thought you were going to say that like there was a night that they would do where like the celebrities got to sit back and all of the regular people serve them.
No, Irving Thalberg is serving sandwiches.
No. It would be the opposite. Like, it would just be a restaurant. Like, celebrities would come in and all of the regular people would work there. I think I just invented a restaurant.
Like a regular restaurant. You invented a restaurant in Brentwood. O.J. Simpson.
All of the stars.
They were just like invited to watch opening night and enjoy the show and see what all this was about and decide whether I wanted to keep you part of MGM or not, because you really were not selling me as someone who hands out sandwiches yesterday, Shirley Temple. You lost the magic, kid.
You didn't really sell them on the dessert.
That show was really great where Mickey Rooney just chased women around the room. That was a really good show. What are you talking about? What? Opening night would consist of 2 big-name bands, 3 floor shows, Dancing with Hollywood Stars, and then food and snacks as well.
Ginger Rogers.
Opening night, 9 p.m. Place is jam-packed. The night opened with Aloha Ha Ha from Eddie Cantor. Betty Davis gave an opening speech thanking John Garfield for coming to her and with the idea. The color guard with different branches of the armed forces came up, presented Davis with the different flags from different military arms of the military, Air Force.
They gave her the flags?
Yeah, they folded it up like she was a war widow. No, they just handed her like little flags being like, thank you for doing this for us.
I thought... I was thinking the folding up thing would be funny too, but I was thinking they brought out like at the Olympics, like the giant flags. And she was like, another one.
No help. Carry it to your car. No help. Abbott and Costello were there. They did Who's on First for the troops. It turns out you never really find out who's on first. Rudy Valley's Coast Guard band played for the servicemen. Entertainers included Eleanor Powell, who danced until she almost died. Dinah Shore and Betty Hutton sang. 4,000 servicemen showed up on opening night.
4,000? How can that many fit in there?
Rotating.
Okay.
It just rotated for like the 5 hours it's open or whatever.
Battalions of
battalions of soldiers. Yeah, and they forward march and then just go to get coffee.
Retreat. That's when it was time to leave.
Here's a list of the stars opening night on duty, serving as hosts or hostesses: Ann Baxter, Joan Bennett, Jack Benny, Charles Boyer, Gary Cooper, Joan Crawford, Bing Crosby.
Wow.
Betty Davis was there. Marlena Dietrich, Olivia de Havilland, Irene Dunn, Judy Garland, Cary Grant, Rita Hayworth, Veronica Lake, Hedy Lamarr, Fred McMurray, Edward G. Robinson, Mickey Rooney, Jane Russell, Ann Sheridan, Gene Tierney, Spencer Tracy, Lana Turner, Loretta Young were among the many, many volunteers that night on opening night.
Ridiculous.
It's star-studded. If I threw a dart and hit any one of those, I would have been so excited.
And all of them just screaming at each other in the kitchen like the bear. Corner!
This is cilantro! I needed basil!
Who turned off the heat on my...
Who messed up my creme brulee? Edward G. Robinson crying over like a destroyed cake. I almost had it.
I think we know who put animal crackers in the soup. Oh, wait, no, that's not, no, she wasn't there.
She
That's
wasn't.
not Judy Garland. That was almost funny, but ChatGPT will correct that.
Yeah, it'll correct it in post. Our new editor, ChatGPT.
Chad GPT.
After all the fun and enthusiasm of opening night was over, now they had to do it every night for the duration of the war, which they didn't know how long it would go for. Every night they had to prepare an estimated 25...
So is this like another 10-day war?
Where are we on the bomb? Crap. Okay. Every night they had to prepare for an estimated 2,500 soldiers. There were between 150 to 200 hostesses each night. Hostesses could be famous movie stars, or they could be lower tier actresses, studio secretaries, wardrobe ladies, anything below the line entertainment workers. You would be asked to do this, or you could volunteer.
I bet there was a lot of disappointment of the troops eating there of like, I hope I get, oh, look, Cary Grant's delivering at the next table. Oh, I have Irving Thalberg's personal secretary.
Yeah, I do feel bad for her, but
all sympathy to Irving Thalberg.
I got Chico marks.
First off, how dare you? He can play piano like no other.
If you order from Harpo, he'll never come back. He brought a tuba back, and there's no receipt here. I know I'm not paying for it.
I mean, I know I ordered the seltzer. He didn't have to squirt it in my face.
I have a cup. Groucho got cigarette ash over everything. And he walked off with my date.
He tried to tell me it was pepper.
And I'm the idiot for noticing. Senior hostesses would greet servicemen, show them to their seats, serve them at the snack bar. Junior hostesses would wear these really cool, like, red armbands with, like, HC embroidered on them.
Sounds like the people they were fighting, but okay.
Okay. Armbands are, you're walking on a thin line, guys. That's Hugo Boss, too.
That's what the HC stands for.
Hugo
Boss. Hugo Kill Boss. That's what they were serving.
There was some gray area, of course, between senior and junior hostesses, and a distinction between them would often blur. As stated before, no hostess of any level was allowed to see a serviceman they met at the canteen. They could not leave the canteen premises with a soldier. They could not give out phone numbers. Some actresses like Jean Porter and Donna Reed had pre-printed cards with studio addresses on them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that they should do.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry, but here's my studio card just to deal with that.
Here's my trading card.
Yeah. I got 3 Betty Davises. Truly an honor system sort of thing. Like, we can't check up on you. Like,
right.
if a soldier sneaks you his number, like he's trying to get out of Jonestown, like, we don't know. We don't, like, this isn't a sweatshop. We can't pat your pockets on the way out. Yeah.
They didn't pat down, let's just say, Ginger Rogers on the way out.
Pick one at random, Ginger Rogers. There were some stories about crossing.
Check her phone.
Open your, spit it out. What do you have in your mouth? Is that a phone? It's like really long because the phone number is like Olympia, like 15559. There are
ticker tape.
She hasn't stopped. Is this a magic trick? There's some stories about crossing the line, obviously. A hostess named Meg Nisbet, who was a messenger at RKO, enjoyed a second date with a soldier named Woody Cole, and the two carried off a relationship beyond the bounds of the canteen. They were soon married, and not long after that, Woody was sent to war and died. This was used as a cautionary tale.
Oh my God. I was going to say jokingly, that's what happens, but for them to actually say that's what happens.
You want a Woody to happen to you? And they all got quiet because it probably made that girl work still. Another cautionary tale is incredibly grim, and it's a story I've wanted to cover for a long time. And it's one of the women that were murdered around the same time as Elizabeth Short that sort of gets lumped in with her. I don't know. We put it on a list a while ago that Elizabeth Short might have been. The Black Dahlia was maybe not the only person mutilated by this person. There were several women around the time who was getting mutilated and left in public. This one wasn't left in public, but it was a pretty bad murder. Her name was Georgette Bauerdorf. Is a bubbly little oil heiress who volunteered at the canteen, and she was kind of slyly getting dates, you know, some from the canteen, some not from the canteen. But she had been seen with a soldier. No one's sure if that was a canteen soldier or not. But she was found dead in her bathtub. A really grisly crime scene, and I never found the killer. And of course, this happens, canteen or not. But this was another cautionary tale. This is another thing of like, don't give your number to somebody. This might end badly for you.
So, is there a possibility the Black Dahlia killer was a military man? Is this what you're telling me? I
mean, we don't know a single thing about the person that killed her.
I think we should shut down the military because of this.
I think we should end World War II ourselves. I think we should let World War II keep going just to make
let
sure.
It burn itself out. It'll be gone by Easter. It's still 2021, right?
I'm pretty sure I know how history works. So for 3 years during the war, the Hollywood Canteen existed as a special little bubble for stars to commingle with regular people and serve them. Regular people being people that were serving in the military. Like, you can be like a guy who grew up in like La Habra and go serve in the military, and you're just like a regular guy, but now you're hanging out with
The Ginger Rogers of parts of Los Angeles.
Exactly, yeah. Some people call it an exploitative photo op, and it kind of was at times, but this photo op was a real place that servicemen could enter and enjoy themselves. You must remember this did an episode on this, and she brought up a point
no free
of
plugs.
Maybe the best podcast around next to Criminal. She was saying, like, if this was a photo op or exploitive, the soldiers sure didn't mind it. Like, we're getting free food and we get a dance at a nightclub and all the stars in the movies are here right now. Like, exploit me. It's fine. Like I was saying, like, photo ops are known for being faked and only existing for the length of the photo. But, you know, Joan Crawford, Buster Keaton, Rita Hayworth, Betty Davis would be in a room serving soup, handing out sandwiches, dancing, chatting. One night in 1944, Henry Wallace, who was the vice president at the time, came to the Hollywood Canteen and helped in the kitchen. There's photos of Spencer Tracy wearing an apron, signing autographs while serving food. Marlene Dietrich and Rita Hayworth were serving coffee. Bill Bojangles Robinson would do a big dance number with soldiers sitting in a circle around him. Actress Kay Francis drove to a naval hospital 50 miles south of LA and picked up a bunch of wounded soldiers herself just to bring them to the canteen to have a good time.
What? Some of them went all the way to France and carried soldiers off of the battlefield just to get them to the Hollywood Canteen.
We flew a plane into the foxholes in France and pulled somebody out because you won't believe it. Charlie Chaplin's here.
Charles Loughton had a soldier in his mouth swimming across the Atlantic Ocean just to get to the Hollywood
It was
Canteen.
an inside joke, but boy, was it a good scene. At the 1-year anniversary of the canteen, Meekly Mayor Mary Pickford gave a speech. Orson Welles was known to broadcast live on the radio from the canteen stage. The most frequent guest of the canteen was, of course, Mr. USO himself, Bob Hope, would often go and do like a little show for people. And because the canteen was less than a mile from NBC, where NBC was at the time on Sunset and Vine, Eddie Cantor or Red Skelton would just hop on over and do their show there live, or just like if they're looking for do it with an audience, they would just do it there for the canteen. They were right down the street. One night, Charles Lawton was spotted volunteering at the canteen, and a band leader spotted him and asked him to get up on stage. Lawton said, "No thanks, I can't sing or tell jokes. I wouldn't know what to do." And the soldier said from the audience shouted, "Give us the Gettysburg Address." And that he could do.
What?
So he got up in front of everybody and delivered the Gettysburg Address in front of a room full of soldiers, and it ended with thunderous applause. Like, people were crying at the end of this.
Well, this was the free bird of its day.
Absolutely, 100%. Before Leonard Skinner came, it was just Gettysburg Address on tape.
What a weird request. And also that he had it memorized.
He knew it, and Charles Lawton, of all people, did it. That's great. Fantastic.
You might not get it, but your grandparents are going to love it.
Your grandparents are going to love it. Beyond being a place where servicemen could dance with Loretta Young, it was a premier nightclub. Because it was soldiers only,
Rogers.
It made the allure of serving in the military even more romantic. Like, I feel like most wars, there's a certain, well, up to a certain point, probably going to serve in war had like a valor thing to it. That's what a lot of people got duped into fighting in World War I, because like, I'm going to come back a hero. And then you came back and you only had like one limb left. I think World War II had that too. And I think now that this was a thing, it added another romantic element of like, I'll go and fight and crush fascism, and I'll come and dance with Rita Hayworth when I'm done.
Ginger Rogers will fall in love with me.
Any one of them. Let's just say, I don't know, Ginger Rogers. Fall in love with me. Vivacious Lady. Perfect movie. Ginger Rogers, so funny. The Hollywood Canteen, like I'm trying to say about nightclubs, it rivaled Ciro's, the Macombo, Coconut Grove. Like, it was like a nightclub, like a big deal nightclub, but it wasn't like the other ones in that, like, oh, the richest and most famous people are paying top dollar to be there. Like, no, you have to work.
World.
Yeah, it was Bizarro World. You had to go there. If you were a rich and famous star, you had to go work there, and servicemen would be having a good time.
And people wanted to go there.
And people wanted to go. Yeah, exactly. There were no mob hits happening here. One of the biggest deals to me is that Betty Davis and John Garfield fought hard to keep the Hollywood Canteen, and this is a big deal, integrated. This in the early 40s, when very little white spaces allowed people of color to enter unquestioned.
How did they keep it integrated? But how did they do that when the military was?
They were
not.
Yeah, they were.
The military?
Weren't they? Oh, no, they weren't.
The Tuskegee Airmen.
You're absolutely right. They weren't. They pulled it off there. I guess they were.
I guess you can still hang out. You just can't fight together. I don't know.
I don't know how the military works. Yeah. But they just fought for it with the unions and everybody running the committees and everything. Said, no, this is for all soldiers, despite what color they are. So it was integrated. It was said that any race-related brawls, like if like let's say a bunch of white soldiers don't like that, like, I don't know, let's say black people are in the same space as them and they want to have a fight about it. If that's any race-related brawls would happen between soldiers, the band was instructed to immediately start playing the Star Spangled Banner. And through the 3 years that it was
also
open,
the Leonard's the Freebird of its day.
yeah, the 1776 Freebird was Star Spangled Banner, and then a century later it became another one. Only 2 times did they have to immediately start playing the Star Spangled Banner, so that's good. Because the Hollywood Canteen was so socially progressive, of course the FBI infiltrated it, put a file out on them because they thought they were communists. All progressive ideas at the time were considered to be communist.
Free food, communism.
Free food, communism.
Free samples, communism.
Yeah. There's Korean people here, communism. Christmas and Thanksgiving were celebrated at the canteen, servicemen being admitted in shifts. A cantor dressed as Santa and a huge Christmas tree was brought in. Burns and Allen or Lena Horne or whoever was entertaining would perform for hours on holidays. Paulette Goddard and Olivia de Havilland would serve men, ham, and turkey. They would serve like 5,000 people in a day. Bing Crosby would come and sing Christmas carols. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, I would love that.
Like the opening of White Christmas when all the soldiers are real sad and he's just saying, oh, it's great.
Imagine Bing Crosby singing White Christmas to you on Christmas Eve while Buster Keaton is bringing you like roast beef.
And you hit him in the shoulder. Why can't you be like him?
Toughen up.
Yeah, toughen up, pal.
Pipsqueak.
Yeah. It sounded like a big, joyous space to exist while the world was at war. It really does sound like Europe is being torn apart and this little space here is like a good thing is happening. It was such a wondrous place that, of course, Hollywood, the entity, not the place, had to try to capture it. In 1944, Warner Brothers released the movie Hollywood Canteen, which was just like a big song and dance.
Maybe that's where I've heard of, because the name I had never heard of this, but the name does sound familiar because I thought you were I didn't think you were talking about this, but the first thing that came to mind was the Taco Bell Cantina in Hollywood.
That's sad.
But that's always the first thing that comes to mind. But maybe it was this movie that I was thinking of.
It could be, yeah. It's one of those like variety show movies that just has like it's just like a movie star parade or
like
whatever.
Stormy weather.
You're
Is that what that movie's called?
Stormy Weather's a movie, yeah.
Where it's like all the black performers just basically like they each do like a performance.
Yeah, and there's like a narrative like a loosely strung throughout it or whatever. Yeah, this like that. Yeah, Robert Hutton would play a soldier visiting the canteen. They were trying to sell him to be like the new Jimmy Stewart, and he's just too pale and basically all the stars. It was so.
Yeah, where's Jimmy Stewart in all this?
You know, I don't know. I think he was.
Well, I've got a peanut allergy.
Did he really? Did he serve? I think he served.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if I served or not.
But I can't. I fell in that lake and my ear went deaf.
I've been trying to kill myself in France for 2 months and the angel won't let me. But yeah, they were trying to make this guy a star and it wasn't happening. But this guy goes to the Hollywood Canteen while visiting LA in between serving and wants to meet Joan Leslie. He wants to meet Joan Leslie, who was a star at the time.
Leslie Jones?
He wants to meet Leslie Jones, yeah. The movie, try not to pull a muscle, patting yourself on the back for what it really like came off as like, wow,
the real heroes here are the celebrities,
or the celebrities serving sandwiches.
Food.
But like the movie, who did the movie have? I watched it this morning. Roy Rogers and Trigger did a little show in the movie. Joey Brown comes up, gets some yucks. Ida Lupino's very funny in it. Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet pop up and they do like their Maltese Falcon creep thing. Jack Benny's very funny. Dorothy Malone's in the background, which I'm like, oh, sheesh, big deal.
Was it filmed there?
No, I think the exterior shot, you could see Hollywood Canteen, but I'm sure the rest of it was Warner Brothers. Yeah. But there really is towards the end, a really great speech, like a really rousing speech about like unifying races and nationalities and different arms of the army, like Army, Navy, Marines, all that, to like
different arms of the army.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
All the branches of the army.
All the branches of the Navy. No, all the branches of the armed forces is what I mean. But like, he's like, yeah, like we have people from China here learning how to be fighter pilots. We have Korean people here, like the black people who are raised in America are here. Like we're all here to fight this war together. And it's a great speech. It really is. And it's, I wish the whole movie was that.
They just ended with the Gettysburg Address.
If the movie was more about what it's like being a celebrity and having to like serve people and also be in a movie, I would have maybe thought that was a little bit better, but whatever. You want to string a narrative about like,
I'm telling you, I want to see the TV series of this place a la The Bear. And it's just all of them really frantically yelling at each other. Cousin.
Yeah, that's great. You're an idea machine.
I have to get me in front of Irving Thalberg and
yeah, the Wonder Boy. The movie, more than the reading about it, really did remind me like, oh, just because you're a soldier and you're not allowed to pick up on a actress hostess or junior hostess and get their number doesn't mean that they were probably objectified a lot and made remarks to The movie doesn't do that as much, but it really does.
Oh, no? The movie from the 40s?
The movie from the 40s.
Propaganda movie from the 40s?
As I'm watching, yeah, it has a couple moments where like, Jesus, it's just like, one guy's like, democracy is the strongest thing. I'm like, oh boy, it's maybe not. I'm thinking about like,
communist.
Oh yeah, like it kind of is objectifying to some degree.
Yeah.
To a large degree, probably.
Their novelty. They're props, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Or something that the studio could just give away and like, go dance with a bunch of soldiers is still objectification. In spring of 1945, Mussolini was executed. Hitler killed himself all the way to Argentina. And the Americans committed a war crime by dropping the future on Japan and burning shadows into the ground. America good? The war was effectively over. And with that, the need for the canteen was no more. VE Day at the canteen was an exuberant blast of joy and celebration. And with that, the Hollywood Canteen had served its purpose by providing a welcome relief for soldiers, both men and women. The Hollywood Canteen was to be closed on August 30th, although it managed to stay open till Thanksgiving of that year. Many servicemen were saddened to hear about it because they hadn't, over 1 million soldiers had gone to the Hollywood Canteen. Many more.
They had a sign out front that said over 1 million served.
Yeah, it counted them. There's still a lot that hadn't been there yet. The last day, November 22nd, 1945, the line of servicemen stretched along the block. It was bittersweet and a beautiful way for it to all end. It wasn't like, it didn't go into disrepair. It wasn't.
Oh, it went out in its prime.
Yeah, it went out in its prime. It went out when it was time to go out.
Must be nice.
It must be like a British show.
It had 3 seasons and a Thanksgiving special.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving special, and then called it. During the Korean War in 1950, there was another attempt to open a new Hollywood Canteen at where Florentine Gardens is on Hollywood Boulevard, but that didn't last very long. A lot of photos have come from the Hollywood Canteen, and some can argue that it looks like propaganda or, like I said, exploitive photo op. But reading about this magical place really does show that for a brief moment in U.S. history, there was something close to unifying harmony. Like when they talk about everything coming together in World War II, people getting jobs that they couldn't have gotten before, and everyone sort of banding together. It really is like solidified in this idea that the Hollywood Canteen exists. Everyone did their part and served in whatever capacity they were capable of, and Hollywood in its heyday didn't shy away from stepping up and doing its part. That's the Hollywood Canteen.
Heroes. Not the people who served in the foreign wars.
Crushing Hitler and its forces, not them.
The people who so valiantly and bravely didn't get tips.
You're a monster?
To bring out.
Yeah.
To bring out a bunch of buttered bread to these brave young individuals.